All right, so now I have the story in front of us, and it is called How People Got Fire. That is the title of the story. Okay. We also have our author, Regina Vasquez, and our illustrator, Emily Boone. So, our author, Regina Vasquez, she wrote the story, and then Emily Boone illustrated. So, she made all these beautiful pictures for us to look at. But what's important about that is before you read a story, you always have to make a prediction about what you think is going to happen. So, let's quickly look at this. Making predictions. So remember, a prediction is what you think might happen in the story using the words and pictures. Remember, you can make a prediction by looking at the title and by looking at the illustrations. So you're going to ask yourself, what do I think will happen in the story? What illustrations do I see? And then, can any of the words help me? And then as you listen and read along with me, you can think about what will happen next in the story. And then you can also think about if your prediction's right. And when we're finished, we're going to think about if we had to change our prediction, was it correct? And if it wasn't, remember, it's okay. It happens. Everybody makes predictions and sometimes they change. We're also going to be focusing on with our characters in the story. So remember, characters can be many forms. Characters can be people, animals, make-believe creatures in a story. Characters tell us what is happening in the story. So characters can be people, they can be animals, and they can be make-believe creatures. But your job is to make sure you are figuring out who the character is in the story, what the character looks like, what is the character doing? How does the character act? What kind of emotions does the character have? What kind of words? There's so much that go with characters. You just have to pay attention to them and listen. So remember that there can be more than one character in the story, so you might see a lot. So here, let's look at this. So going back to what we do when we make predictions, remember, we have to look at the title. So, How People Got Fire. Just by looking at the title, I know it involves people and fire. So, it involves people and it involves fire. Okay, people, fire. Now, let's look at these pictures. I think this is fire. It looks like fire, but I don't know. I don't know who these people are. I do see an animal. I see a coyote. I see the mountains, the road, trees, the sun or the moon, not sure. So make your prediction. Predictions. What do you think will happen in the story? So think about it, and then you can say, I think, and then you're going to tell me what you think. So tell me what you think. Just by looking at this, I think what's going to happen in the story. So you can say, I think that Coyote wants fire. It's a prediction. I'm not sure. But I will write that though on here. So I think the coyote wants their fire. So that can be something. And you could come up with something else. So remember, too, as we're reading, you need to pay attention to who the character is in the story, the event, so something that took place, the problem, an issue. Now, words, thoughts, or actions that the character had. Keep those in mind as we're reading. It's important. So the story that we're going to be reading is also a folk tale. This is a Native American folk tale. So we're going to see animal characters that can act like people. So this character is going to act like people. So they're going to show us human traits. So the character is an animal and he's going to be acting like people in the story. Just like many folk tales, it is a story about how something came to be. So how something is. So we're going to find out. So remember, we have to think about who our character is and what are they thinking, what are they feeling, and some clues. So on the first page, you'll see that I highlighted some of the words that I went over in the vocabulary. So long ago, people did not have fire. Winter was cold and snow fell. The people were not warm. Coyote saw that the people were cold. He wanted to help them. So we see snow, fire, and it is cold. Oh, here it is. Silly. Cold. So we have snow, we have a coyote, and people. Now, do you think the coyote might be a character? There's a good possibility that he definitely might be a character in our story. So, how do you think the coyote will help the people? So, ask yourself this. How will Coyote help the people? What is he going to help them with? Well, he might help them because they are cold. They're cold. So we might need to get some fire to help them. Now, when we're looking at the picture on page 2, the coyote is watching people. So here's the coyote and he's watching people with his eyes. How do the people look? Think about it. To me, when I look at their face, they look very sad. There's snow out, and it doesn't look like they're wearing coats or anything that will help them stay warm. So it's cold, and they have no way to stay warm. Now Coyote feels sad, and he wants to help them. So this makes Coyote a kind person because he wants to help them. Coyote knew where the fire beings lived. Oh, so now we know that they're called fire beings. And then the mountain, the fire, and the tunnel. So he saw them at the top of the mountain. The fire beings had fire up there. The top of the mountain was a great height. So in this case, they're saying that the mountain was very high. It was a long way, but Coyote wanted to help the people get fire. So he walked slowly. So he walked really slow. He didn't walk fast. He walked slowly toward the top of the mountain. Remember, toward means going in a certain direction. Coyote got to the top and walked close to the fire. Then he dug a tunnel and hid. Remember, tunnel is like a little hole. So here he is in his tunnel coming out of a hole. The fire beings could not see him. So what do you think would have happened if the fire beings saw Coyote? What do you think? Because it looks like they're really busy, so they're not paying attention. But what do you think would happen if the fire beings saw Coyote? Think about it and tell me about it. So Coyote watched the fire beings. He saw how the fire beings let the fire burn out. So when you have fire and you blow it out like your candles on a cake, it goes away. There's no more fire. So right here, no more fire. There was nothing left but an orange glow. Then one fire being got some small sticks. The other fire beings used these sticks to start the fire. Soon they made the fire very hot. So think about this in a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Is your prediction different from the beginning? And if you need to change it, you can. Coyote wanted to steal fire from the people. Now, do you think Coyote should steal or ask for the fire? Do you think that stealing is a good thing? Tell me about it. But the fire beings watched the fire day and night. Coyote watched and watched. Look at those ED endings. He saw that the fire beings were sleepy. So remember the word, this is what you do when you sleep. In the morning, they did not guard the fire very well as the sun came up. So they mean by the word guard is they're not letting anybody by. That was the best time to steal the fire. And think about it. Do you think that it should be okay for him to steal that? Or could he just ask them for the fire? Coyote knew he needed help to steal fire. He went down the mountain. Then Coyote spoke to his friends Squirrel, Chipmunk, and Frog. Coyote's friends agreed to help. They made a plan to steal fire. The friends went back to the mountain. Frog sat at the bottom. Chipmunk sat halfway up the mountain. Squirrel sat almost at the top. Coyote walked alone toward the fire and hid his tunnel. He waited for the sun to come up. So now we have Coyote, Squirrel, Frog, and Chipmunk. Just before the sun came up, when the fire beings were asleep, Coyote ran out of his tunnel. He stole a piece of fire. The fire beings woke up. "Stop that thief!" they cried. They pointed in his direction. "Stop that, Coyote!" One fire being grabbed Coyote's tail. Then she touched his tail, and the end of it turned white. Turned white. Coyote threw the fire to Squirrel. Squirrel caught the fire. It was so hot that Squirrel's tail curled up. Remember, curled would be just like what it's doing here, curled. Here's your stripes. Squirrel threw the fire to the Chipmunk. The fire beings ran after the fire. The one fire being grabbed Chipmunk's back. The fire being's hot hand put 3 stripes, 1, 2, 3, on Chipmunk's back. Chipmunk threw the fire to Frog. The fire beings ran after the fire. One fire being grabbed Frog's tail. Frog jumped and his tail came off. Whoa, yikes. Frog ran away with the fire. The fire beings yelled, "Ah!" They were very, very angry. Chipmunk, Squirrel, and Coyote ran down the mountain. Then the 4 animal friends brought fire to the people, who all look very happy now. Coyote did not brag, so he wasn't boasting about what he did, about how he got the fire. He showed the people how to use it. Now the people could be warm in the winter. The people saw that the 4 animal friends were hurt. Coyote's tail had a white tip. Squirrel had a curly tail. Chipmunk's back had 3 stripes. And Frog had no tail. The people did not tease the animal, so remember, they didn't make fun of them. They thanked the animals for stealing fire. Then the people helped the animals heal. People and friends. The end. I'll be coming back on with another video for this.